Stop Shitting All Over Yourself podcast, the place where you come to stop feeling bad about the things that you're not doing in your business, because chances are you don't really need to be doing a lot of those things anyway. I'm Vanessa Konecki, your host. I am an inspired action coach. I'm a business coach. I'm a business strategist, and I work with small business owners like you to help them create systems in their business that will allow you to create more progress instead of simply grinding your wheels and doing a lot of stuff. One of the things that I discovered, many years ago in my own business was that I was doing a lot of things. Like, oh my God, not only was I doing a lot of things, I also felt like I needed to be doing a lot of things. And I was constantly giving myself shit for all the things that I wasn't doing. And no matter what I was in the middle of working on, like I'm sitting here and I'm working on, I'm recording this. I'm sitting here right at this moment and I'm working on my email. I always felt like I should be working on something else. Like, it didn't matter what I was working on or how important it is. I always felt like whatever I was working on was wrong and that I should be working on something else. So I was always in this state of, I have to finish this thing that I'm doing right now so that I can go do something else, so that I can then be really anxious to finish that thing so I can move on to the other thing. And I basically realized that my entire business was me trying to finish something so that I could go start something else that then I would be looking forward to finishing so that I could start something else so that ultimately I could stop so that I could just sit down and right? And that is, hi Sheila, good to see you. And I found that I wasn't the only one who was experiencing this. Hi Colleen, hi, good morning, good to see you as well. Grand Rising, hello. I decided to share some of my view with you guys today. So this is a camera that is currently pointed that way. I did a test earlier on today to see if I made this a green screen and then put that camera feed behind me, right? What does it look like? And it looks super cool and it's like totally legit. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm totally going to try doing that. It'll be amazing. There might be a delay that can be for a lot of different reasons, Sheila. So there might be a delay today, but I'm not entirely sure why that might be. It also could just be the regular delay that, like, I say something and then there is a delay on that one. But thank you for letting me know. Hi, Christy. Hello. Thank you for sending the text. I assume you sent the text. So I found myself in this space where and me and my clients and my friends and my colleagues, we were all doing all these things for our business. And oh my God, it was so much. And at one point I thought to myself, but there's no way that people are doing all these things for their businesses. Like, not like as in like us. I meant people who are successful. I'm like, are they just spending every minute of every day? And I was like, no, they're not. And I was like, there's clearly something else that makes a business successful, and it's not doing all of the things. Okay, I won't say anything good. All right. No, don't worry. I will give you, I usually take about 15 minutes in the beginning to give people a chance to get on, to share it with their friends. Because, everybody's getting their coffee, waking up, doing their thing. I've been up since 5:30, but, so while I'm sort of like getting situated, please make sure that you're sharing this with your friends. Today's topic is going to be a big one. Oh my God, so good. Today's topic is going to be about perfectionism and how perfectionism is bad for business. And we're going to see how many times I can actually say the word perfectionism without actually stumbling over, because I have a stutter that has become weirdly more pronounced of late, that I dealt with years ago. But I still, every so often, I will like get stuck on a word and I'm like, oh God, this word is not coming out. And I can tell that perfectionism is going to be, it's going to be a problem. Alrighty. Good morning. Hi, Karen. So good to see you today. Hello. Hello. Okay, Sheila, the P word. I know we'll call it the P word, right? Okay. So, today we're going to be talking about perfectionism, because, one of the other things that was a problem was not just that we had all the things that we decided we were going to do, but that we had to do everything perfectly. And that's actually a bigger issue, I think, for a lot of us. I don't think that perfectionism is something that just rears its head in our businesses. I think that if I was to ask, I'm asking you right now, do you consider yourself a perfectionist? I bet that either you consider yourself a recovering perfectionist, as I do, or you're a perfectionist, or you wish you weren't, but you are, right? Like, or things have to be, you may not use the word perfectionist. You may be like, it has to be a certain way. I have a way of doing things and stuff like that. So you may not use the P word, but you still may actually be essentially doing the same thing. So what we're going to be talking about today is really going to be recognizing how this concept of perfectionism impacts us as business owners, not just as like the person who's running the business, but also holistically as a human being, and then how that manifests in your business to actually create roadblocks and barriers to your progress. And which is why, I don't know if you've experienced this, I'm sure you've seen it at some point in your business, that where, like January 1st, we'll use January 1st as an example, because it's usually the day where people are like, all right, it's a new year, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to look at my business, and I'm going to make this list of things that I'm going to do. And you have all these plans and these ideas, and then next year comes around, and you find yourself looking at it, and you're like, why do I feel like I'm in the same place as I was last year? Like, I may have done some stuff and moved some things forward, but I still feel like I feel the same. I still feel like I'm still, trudging and trying and on the treadmill. Like, even though I've done all of this stuff, I still feel like I feel the same about my business as I did last year. And I expected that if I put these things in place, that by next year at this time, I would feel more confident about how my business is running. I would have a better understanding of how I'm making money. I would just feel like I'm in a better position, right? Because ultimately that's what we're hoping for, right? We're all hoping for that we're going to put XYZ thing in place. And then over the course of 6 months to a year, we'll come back and we'll look back on it and say, yes, look at how far I've come and how much less I have to do and how much more money I'm making, or feel like you've made a lot of progress. But I started to feel like, in my previous business, I started to feel like every year I was making these plans and these ideas, but I actually felt like I was treading water. And in some cases, I really felt like I was being pushed back by the current. And I really struggled with figuring out exactly why that is and how that happens. And a lot of it has to do with the things that we tell ourselves we need to be doing in business. It comes from ideas that we've brought with us from childhood. It comes from things that you heard your parents saying around the dinner table or friends talking about when they were talking about people who own businesses. And it comes from basic ideas about what you were told it is required of you to be a valuable and productive woman, female, girl in society. So we brought so many of these things with us, and though, like, for many years, I was all about business and personal need to be kept separate. There was nothing, I don't want to talk about all this personal shit on business, it doesn't matter. And I was really aggressively anti-combining business and personal, like really aggressively anti. And it wasn't until I really started to open my mind to, like, the things that actually work, right? So I had to really let go of what I thought made businesses successful. I had to let go of my preconceived notions. And what I discovered was that by letting go of all of the extra baggage I'd collected over the years, I suddenly was designing and building the life that I had been dreaming about for my first business all along. So the Stop Shitting All Over Yourself podcast is the child of those conversations that I had, not just with myself and my mind, but with all of my friends and colleagues and other business owners and things like that we've been discussing over the years, that as we talk, we just find, why are we doing some of these things? And it's also some of them are behavior patterns. So today, what I want to recommend that you do, so this is how we run the podcast, is I basically am going to hit the clap button, and then I'm going to start talking. And while I'm talking, I don't look at the screen, so I don't really look at the questions or anything, but I come back afterwards when the recording of the podcast is over, and then we'll do conversation, Q&A, things like that. So if you have any specific questions or you need help with something or something resonates with you, please share while we are talking, while I'm going live, because I'm going to come back and look at it all and we'll talk about it. But I think it's really important is that one of the best parts about this particular way that the podcast is done is that you guys get to participate while we're going live. Good morning, Dawn. Hey, good to see you. So share this with your friends, get everybody involved. Anyone you know who's a perfectionist, who's like, I'm a perfectionist, but I wish I wasn't. Get them here because this will help. All right, I think we're ready to get going. Now, fair warning, Luna's in here today, and as everybody knows, my dogs are just so particular. So if Luna decides that she doesn't want to be in here anymore and she wants to be out there with Daddy, then there will be like a brief intermission while I sort that out and get her on the other side and all the things. So this is her house. I just live here. Okay, so let's get this show on the road. Hi, Dee Dee. Hello, Dawn. Okay, we're going to start the recording now. All right, all the good stuff is coming now. I got to make my notes. All righty. Whew. All right, ready? I do that before I go live every time. I just said, I'm like, got to give myself like the shiver, get it going, get it released. Get the adrenaline. I have one more shiver back there. I can like feel it, and it's like I gotta get it out. Otherwise, I'm gonna be like, oh, there we go. Okay, got it. All right, it's gone. We're ready to go live, people. I mean, I'm already live technically. Okay. Hello, and welcome to the Stop Shitting All Over Yourself. Oh, wait, I'm supposed to clap first. Laura likes it when I clap. Okay. Hello, and welcome to the Stop Shitting All Over Yourself podcast. This is the place where you come to let go of all of the preconceived ideas of the things that you think that you need to do to run a business. And instead, wow, I just said all these words. I don't even know what I'm saying. Let's try it again. Wow, why am I so weirdy today? All right, let's try it again. Okay. All right. Hello, and welcome to the Stop Shitting All Over Yourself podcast, the place where you come to do less to make your business more successful. I'm Vanessa Konecki, inspired action coach and business strategist, and I'm here to help you work through some of the business baggage that you've accumulated over the last however many years and figure out which things are serving you and which things are not. Today, we're going to talk about something that is near and dear to my heart, which is this idea of being a perfectionist. Because for many, many years, I was a perfectionist, and I'm still what I call a recovering perfectionist. I remember when years and years ago, I talked to one of my coaches, and I said, I am a perfectionist. And because she'd asked me why I hadn't started a project that I said I was going to work on. And she said, well, why haven't you started? I said, well, I'm a perfectionist. And I said, it just needs to be a certain way. And then once I get everything planned and ready, then I'll press the button. And she looked at me and she said, okay then. She goes, how long are you willing to wait until you make money? And I looked at her and I was like, I don't understand. I'm like, why do I need to wait to make money? I just told you I'm going to be working on this thing. And then when it's done, I'll press play. And she's like, yes. She's like, but how long it takes you to figure this out in your head is you saying, I'm pushing pause on amplifying my income. I'm pushing pause on growing my business. I'm pushing pause on everything because I have to figure this out and make whatever this thing is perfect before I do it. And that can extend from writing a post on social media where you're like, well, the post has to be perfect before I will post it. Okay, well, how much time are you willing to wait? 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, 4 years? What are you willing to wait on? It can also apply to bigger things like starting up your email list or a chat bot or moving to a different sales platform. It can be big things. It can be small things. Doesn't have to be something monumental for it to be something that holds you back in your business. In fact, the more day-to-day things that you're a perfectionist about are the more insidious ones because they cost you more time every day. So in the 20 minutes that you're sitting down trying to figure out a post to make it perfect, right? That's 20 minutes that you've lost, right? 20 minutes that you were working that you didn't actually need to be working, but you were working because it had to be perfect. So this is something that I've struggled with for many, many years. That was one of the pivotal conversations that I had, though I have had many conversations with people about perfectionism and working my way through it because I started to recognize that this idea that things had to be perfect was the exact reason why I wasn't making progress in my business and I wasn't growing or seeing those big returns that I was looking for. I also started to find that this is the root of the problem with a great deal of my audience. I cannot tell you how many trainings I've been in and lives that I've been in or coaching calls I've been in where somebody will say they haven't done something or they haven't started something or they started something and put it down or they're waiting on something because I'm a perfectionist. I just have to know how it all works together and I have to figure out how everything fits together and then I will get started. And they don't realize that they're pushing the clock further and further out to make money, or they do realize it, but in their minds, and this is sort of where a lot of us find ourselves, we do realize that the clock is ticking, but in our minds, as we've taken this idea of being a perfectionist and we've translated it into, if this is not perfect when I release it, then it will fail. And that means I am a failure, right? So I have to wait until it's perfect and there is no risk of failure. None whatsoever. And then I will do it. So it's not so much that we're not willing to risk the time. It's just that the fear of failure that comes from it, what we believe will not be failure if it's perfect, is what holds us back because we have created this fake reality in our head that says if it's perfect, then it will not be a problem. That's not true. You can do the most perfect thing in the world for your business and it can still not work. And it doesn't have anything to do with you as your value as a business owner or your ability to actually perform or create progress. Now, roots of perfectionism run deep, right? So I'm just going to talk about how this particular characteristic impacts business owners. I want to really focus on highlighting some key characteristics, right? Some key characteristics that we all have. We're resourceful, we're determined, we have a passion or a vision for something that is usually like really, really big and we're just obsessed with whatever it is. It's so big that it drives us outside of our comfort zone to do something crazy like starting a business, right? So we are not afraid of taking risks. But a lot of times once we take that big risk of starting a business, we've kind of risked ourselves out. Like we're just like, I'm tapped out for risk now, right? What you're doing isn't for the faint of heart. So it makes sense that like, you'd be like, oh my God, this is a lot of risk. But initially when you first start, you have this list of things that you're like, oh, I need to do this and do my branding, and I have to have a website, and I have to set up the various things that I need for my business. I mean, there are all these things done, and you have this task list that you've outlined, and you're like, all right, I'm going to work through these things, because in your mind, and for many of our minds, those are the things that you need to do to set up a successful business. One of which is branding, which I will tell you right off the bat, I wouldn't even recommend starting on your branding until you're 3 to 6 months into your business. You don't know enough about your business until you're 3 to 6 months in to know what your branding should be. For the most part, many of us will do our branding really early on, be very, very excited by it, but then a year or two into it, realize, you know what? I need to change my branding because I feel like I understand my audience so much better, and I feel like I understand my community and myself and what I'm trying to do. But when we first start, we're branding. I need to do branding. So we get really excited about the branding. I have seen people spend months agonizing over colors and words and making sure that you have the exact right name and that your website looks perfect. And all the while, TikTok, TikTok, TikTok. You're not making money because you're focusing on, frankly, the wrong things. Okay. Each of these items on their own takes a lot of time. Okay. Like branding takes a lot of time. Setting up your website can take a lot of time. And the issue is, and this is why I say that none of that stuff matters, is because for many business owners, and I've looked at a lot of sites at this point, what the biggest problem that most business owners struggle with is simply getting somebody from the first moment that they're aware of you as a person, as a brand, to the point where they can check out. Just simply allowing them to, on their own, without any intervention from you, take the steps. I'm going to go here. I will click here. I will move there. I will scroll down. I will press that button. I will add it to cart. I will check out, and I will leave, right? Just that process of checking out. That process is impossible. It is so hard to buy from almost all business owners. Right now, by the way, myself included. So that's why I've hired somebody to take care of my entire website, because this is not an indication of failure. It's not an indication of doing anything wrong. It's just that when you prioritize other things, sometimes the things that are actually important end up falling by the wayside. So while I was prioritizing making squad content bits and slowly and surely, I was adding things and moving things, and eventually my user journey became terrible and no one can actually buy from me. Most business owners struggle with that exact issue. Now, I've hired someone to take care of that, right? So I know that it's a problem. I know it's going to get taken care of. That's fine. But regardless of whether you hire someone or you do it yourself, somebody has to do it to make sure that people can buy. And until someone can actually get to the end of that transaction, what does it matter how pretty your logo is? What does it matter how much time you spent on deciding where this drop shadow was going to be and what color your website background was going to be and where you were going to put your pictures and how cute everything was going to look? None of that stuff actually matters if nobody can get from one end to the other of a transaction, right? There are definitely things that you need to make sure are in place for sure that plan. For example, you've got to make sure that somebody can get through a transaction. For the most part, though, you're going to figure out your business as it goes. As you build, you will figure it out. That is how business works. Yes, you can learn a whole lot in the beginning, but even if you learn everything, you are academically aware of a ton of things. When you go out to run your business, it is going to take you time to figure out what you're doing in business, and that requires experience. It's not something you're going to be learned from a textbook. So if you are first, I will learn, I will figure it out, and then I will implement, then you are automatically adding on an entire time period of however long it takes you to learn something to be able to make money, to be able to let that thing see that it can, to make that impact on your business. So let's look at this as an example. So let's say that chatbots, right? They were really big a while back, and everybody wanted one, and lots of people were setting them up, and they didn't know why they were setting them up. So I'm going to use this as an example. So you decide that you like the idea of a chatbot. So-and-so is using it. It's amazing. Everybody tells you it's going to be great. You see some ads about chatbots and how it can move people through the user journey a lot faster, which is what I was just talking about. So you think to yourself, oh man, this is the thing that I'm going to do. Chatbots are the answer. That's why my business isn't doing well. I need a chatbot. Okay. And it may very well be the answer. That is not the part that's the issue here. The part that's the issue here is that the first thing that many of us do is we decide we're going to become experts in chatbots. So first we're like, oh, I'm going to learn it myself. You sit and you spend a lot of time and energy trying to learn about chatbots till either you figure it out Okay. Or you were like feeling overwhelmed and you're like, I have to hire somebody. Okay. So if it's something that you figure out, we're talking about a lot of time invested. If it's someone that you hire, you're talking about more money invested, but also time, but money also. Okay. So, and it might also be money if you buy a course. So now you're spending time figuring out exactly like, okay, what am I going to have this journey be, and where am I going to, they're going to click on this, and it's going to send them this download, and they're going to ask them this question, and it's going to help them with this, and you're working with your chatbot expert. And meanwhile, TikTok, you're preparing to get your business going. And this is taking up a huge amount of your energy, because in your mind, you're like, when the chatbot is there and it's working, my business will do better. So even if things in your business are not working super well, on the flip side, on the stuff that you're working on in your day to day, you're not super discouraged by it, or it's fine because I've got this other thing that this is going to be the answer, right? But you've not tried a chatbot with your audience before. You don't know if your audience is going to care about the chatbot. You don't know if it can work. You don't even know how to move people through a chatbot. You don't know how to people to get to go to your chatbot. You haven't figured out how to let them know that you have a chatbot, right? So when you launch your chatbot, which I've seen happen many, many times, that it may get some immediate results, but what I've seen happen more often than not is they bomb completely. So now you've spent a lot of time on creating this chatbot, or a lot of money on creating this chatbot, for an idea that you were positive was going to help your business, but you had never actually tried it before. It had to be perfect before you put it out there. Okay. Now you've lost weeks of time, tons of money for an idea that you never validated as a good one. You assumed that just because other people said to do it, or it was working for other people, that it should work for you. That's not how business works. And honestly, that's not even how life works most of the time. I believe in validating your ideas first. So this is the first step to not making these mistakes, is validate your ideas, right? So here's how I started out with this thought process. Is I started to find that before, when I would spend money, I would always buy like the most expensive thing and the best of everything first, right? So I'd be like, oh, I want a Bluetooth speaker. Oh, well, I have to research to get the best Bluetooth speaker and get the best everything, right? But what I realized was that I didn't know what was important to me about a Bluetooth speaker. I didn't know what was important to me about wireless headphones, because I never had them before, right? So I didn't know what I cared about. Did I care about form factor? So I went, and I would buy these big expensive things, and then headphones are a really great example. I'd buy like really expensive headphones, and then I get them and I put them in my ear, and they would hurt, right? So what I was discovering was that I wasn't figuring out what actually mattered to me or what I needed to know. I was simply buying whatever the thing was that I thought I needed. Somebody else said I needed. This guy says it's the best. Go do that. I didn't try it out myself to figure it out. So what I started to do instead was for my very first wireless headset thing that I was doing when I was trying to like have a lavalier mic, I bought like a cheap $15 one. And and they had one for like $300, but I bought a cheap $15 one, and I wired myself up, and I realized I don't like the tactile feeling of wires behind me. I don't like the wires inside. I don't like the way that feels. And I realized that kind of a mic where you put it through your shirt is never going to work for me. If I had bought a $500 lavalier mic, then I would have spent $500 on a mic that I'm now never going to use, because tactilely it doesn't work for me. But I would never have known that without having tried it first. So I buy the cheap one first, test it out, figure out what works and what doesn't. And if it does work, take it to the next level. If it doesn't work, then I haven't wasted any money. It's fine. $15, no big deal, right? Now, this is an idea that I got mostly from my investigators, because when I used to work at the BI, at the hospital, they would submit grants. And when they would submit grants, they were required to talk about their preliminary research. And their preliminary research was the testing that they did in advance on their own to kind of validate that the idea even has viability and that you can actually do it, right? And so when they submit for grants, they have to put in that paragraph in there that says, what are your preliminary results? What have you learned to tell us that this might be a good enough idea to actually give you more money for? The same thing is true for our business. You don't want to go into your business and be like, here, let me throw all the money at you, business. You want to validate your idea first and then come back and say, okay, I'm going to iterate as I go, right? Now, this saves you, one way will save you time and money, right? Because if you're doing it in an iterative way, you see progress the entire time that you're moving forward. So from day one, when you're starting, you start to see progress, because you're like, okay, this works, this doesn't work. I got a comment on that. I didn't get a comment on this. And you really start to figure out the things that work and the things that don't work. If you wait until the end where you're like, okay, I feel like this is perfect, the thing to keep in mind is that you don't know what you don't know. This is costing you a lot. Okay, this is costing you a lot. It's costing you time. Okay, because every one of these ideas that you have costs you time, money, and sales. I had a client once who had a funnel, and I think I talked about this in my last thing. And they came to me after working with me for a while. We'd stopped working together, and they had a funnel that was really great. It's a really great funnel. And we put it together. It was perfect. And they said that no one had come to their funnel and nobody had clicked on their funnel since the day we stopped working together. And I was like, oh my God, that's really bad. What happened? So I went and I looked at the quiz that we put together, and they were absolutely right. Nobody had looked at it. I looked at their Facebook page, and I noticed that that they were not getting the reach that they should be getting. And so I asked them. I said, so when we met, I asked them if they had been directing people to their page, and they said no. And I said, have you been directing people to your quiz? And they said no. And the issue here is not that their funnel isn't working. Everything works fine. The issue is that they're not finding people to send to the beginning of the funnel. So they have misdiagnosed their problem. Okay. So now they've misdiagnosed their problem, and they asked me the question, should I go to YouTube? Right? I've heard YouTube is really big, and I get a website, and I'm like, okay. I was like, great. I was like, have you done any YouTube before? And they said no. And I said, okay, do you know anything about YouTube or SEO? And they said no. I said, okay. And I was like, well, let me tell you what this looks like then. You can absolutely do that. I think it's a wonderful idea. But if you want to go do that, you're going to need to find a coach, hire a coach, or hire someone to help you with this. It's going to take you 6 months or so to figure out, what you're doing, getting everything ready, get your everything in order, right? And then how are you going to get people to the YouTube? Because it sounds like you're expecting the SEO to do it, and it sounds like you're expecting social media, what you expected social media to do, but they can't bear the weight of your entire business. They are not, your social media and SEO cannot do all the things that you want it to do. You have to be a part of that engine, right? And actually direct people to your page, or to your site, or to your quiz, or to wherever. And if you're not doing that, then you're misdiagnosing the problem. And you think the problem is that you need another tool that then you will spend 6 months to 8 months becoming a perfectionist on, right? That then is pushing your progress down the line, and you find yourself a year later saying, how did I get here? I'm still here. I haven't gone anywhere. I still feel the same as I did last year. I just have a whole bunch of new tools, right? So this costs you time. So everything, one of these things costs you time and money. And the thing is that calling yourself a perfectionist, it comes from a lot of spaces, right? And so it's important to recognize why you're doing it. So when you're in the moment and you're like, oh man, I'm a perfectionist, right? The first thing I want you to tell yourself is I am not a grasshopper. A grasshopper can sit there and say, I'm a grasshopper and I'm sitting here eating grass and a bird's going to come eat me one day and I'm going to die, but I'm a grasshopper. So whatever, this is what I do, right? And that's fine. That's a grasshopper's prerogative to do that because he's a grasshopper. He doesn't really sit there thinking about, how do I want to change as a person? How can I be a better grasshopper? Like, I want to give more to the world. The grasshopper doesn't spend a lot of time doing that. The grasshopper is just a grasshopper. You are not a grasshopper. You can actually spend time thinking about this, which you do, and you can change. You can make a different choice anytime you want, right? So for a lot of us, we say, I am this thing, as if once we say that, conversation's done. This is just how I am, and nothing's going to change. That in and of itself is going to hold you back. Once you get to the point where you realize you're not a grasshopper and that you can change, the next thing is to try to really sit with yourself and figure out where is some of this coming from. So first is that calling yourself a perfectionist can be a symptom of pacification. You're afraid of taking action, so you hide behind procrastination of being a perfectionist, because that's all perfectionism really is. It's procrastination. I'm a perfectionist is code for I'm a procrastinator, right? And so you are hiding behind the procrastination of being a perfectionist, so you don't have to get started at all, because you're like, oh, I'm a perfectionist. I just wait till it's perfect. And you've given yourself the free pass, because when you say it's perfect, then you can press play, and then everything, all your dreams will come true. And it's so important to recognize that we've all had these feelings, and we often do not put words to them in this way. And when you put words to them in this way, we're like, well, of course that's somehow it's going to happen. But, and if you gave word to it in that way, you'd also realize it at the time. But when we are in the moment, this is not what we're thinking. When we're in the moment, it's a feeling, and these are the words to give form to that feeling, so we know what to do with it. Perfectionism can be a validation method. Okay. So it's where, you are going to build this perfectly to prove that you can do this and you are good at business. You're trying to prove that you know what you're doing. This can have a lot of roots in your childhood. It can have a lot of roots in self-esteem issues. Like for me, it was definitely, I had to prove that I was not stupid. Like, I have always felt stupid. My whole life I felt stupid. I failed 7th grade. I did terrible in school. My teachers always made me feel really, really dumb. And so my entire life I felt like I had to prove to everyone that I was not stupid, and or that I'm not an idiot. There's so many different words that I've used for myself over the years because I felt like I had something to prove. I really had to work through that and get past my need to prove something so that I could actually provide a service, right? And so I could actually have an impact. It's really hard to have an impact on people when you're really caught up in your own head and trying to prove something to them or to anybody, right? So that's something that was very important to me. So for me, the first thing is that when you are diagnosing the problem in your business, right, it is so important that you diagnose it appropriately. So Danielle Fewings of Elevated E-commerce, and I freaking adore her. We were talking together yesterday about just, I love the way she thinks, and we were having a brainstorming session about like her business and my business and how we can work together. And, we started talking about like one of the biggest issues that we feel is a big challenge. And one of the biggest challenges that we think that our audiences face is that they misdiagnose the problem. Like they look at they look at their business and it has a problem. They're like, I think this is the problem, because you only know what you know, right? So, but you don't know the entire thing it's like if you think of your business as an iceberg, you know the part that you know, but there's like an entire infrastructure of things that's happening underneath your business that you're not an expert in, and that there's no reason for you to be an expert in because you're not a business expert, right? But there's a lot of stuff that's going on in there, and for that reason, a lot of times people misdiagnose their problems. And so one of the things that's like really near and dear to me, and also follow Danielle Fewings, the link is in the show notes. She has a lot of really great articles on this, is really helping people with the information that they can use to diagnose their problems appropriately so that they're solving the right problems and not jumping to like a conclusion that gives them yet another tool to become a perfectionist in. And the reason why we tend to jump to that way is because we always like these new tools and these new ideas. Oh my God, this is gonna be the thing, right? It's the sexier solution, but it's usually not the right solution, okay? If you need help diagnosing, so one of the things that like is a real issue is that you may have trouble diagnosing. So if you have trouble diagnosing the problem with your business, or you feel like you've been spinning your wheels for a really long time, head over to the Direct to Success business page. Oh, I'm changing my name. It's going to be Vanessa. Head over to my business page. The link is in the show notes, and just drop us a line in our chat, and then one of my team will reach out to you and help you. We have a lot of people who can help in various areas of the user journey, who can really help figure out, okay, this is your problem, that's your problem, and get you going in the right direction. Okay, and then experimentation. So experimentation is the key to success. That is the key. It is the secret. One way of thinking about how to experiment is just when you have an idea, figure out the cheapest way to do it, or figure out what is the first thing I can do right now to just get this in front of somebody and validate the idea. If you're not entirely sure how to validate ideas, head over to the Social Strategy Squad, and link is in the show notes, and you can sign up for our wait list. We open up twice a year, and in the squad, we can coach you through that. But the real key thing is to separate your lack of your self-worth, or your lack thereof, from the outcomes of what you're doing in your business, because this idea of being a perfectionist in your business is directly tied to your beliefs about self-worth, and how you are gauging your self-worth based off of your successes in business. So what I'd love for you to do here is I want you to reflect on all the things that you've tried for your business. So this is your sort of homework between now and wherever. I just want you to think about all the things that you have tried in your business over the years, and how long you've spent trying to make it work because you had to know everything, or it had to be perfect, and you had to figure it all out. Reflect upon the time that cost you, right? Not so that you can beat yourself up over it, because honestly, it's fine. You learned something, it's amazing, great. Like, we all have to go through this process. Like, it's all part of it, right? But I want you to be able to pull your own evidence so you can validate what I'm saying in your own life. Like, think back to how much time you've spent on it, and you'll find that you've already lost a couple of years to doing that kind of thing. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't take that and use it as a springboard to propel you forward, but it requires an awareness that you've done it in the first place. Then I really want you to think about whatever it is that you're trying right now in your business, whatever you're doing, whatever you want to try, and I want you to take one step today that you've been waiting until something happens, right? I'm waiting until blah, right? Just forget about the waiting until blah, just do the thing, right? Send out that email to your list, write the post on your business page, respond to a prospect or a client, activate the keyword on Facebook, or instead of getting a chatbot, whatever it is, just take the step. Don't worry about the response, just take the step, and that step alone will give you more information, so you can take another step, so you can have more information, so you can take another step, and eventually you'll find that you're just running and everybody else is running alongside you. taking the first step and figuring it out as you go is how when I started doing that, that's when I started seeing progress in my business. Even right now, I don't know what I'm doing in my business more than 3 months out. And I feel a little bit of anxiety about that because there's something I would really very much like to know in my business right now, right? But I have to remind myself that I'm not there yet and that I just need to give myself another 3 or 4 weeks. Things are happening. I'm taking action in these. I'm doing this action. I'm taking action now. I'm taking action now. I'm taking action now. And that the information that I'm looking for that's going to tell me what it is that I need to know, that would be that perfectionist problem that I would try to like figure out, it will come to me. So it is the difference between waiting for I will make it perfect and now I feel like it's perfect, so I'm going to go, and iteratively improving it and just expecting that what you need to know, you will figure out along the way, which you will, because remember, what are the characteristics of a business owner? You're resourceful, you're gritty, you're determined. You will find the answer because you have always in the past. The goal is to make small incremental progress instead of trying to take these huge, huge leaps that seem way sexier, but ultimately don't give you the same results at all over time. The challenge of business ownership and growth is that a lot of the things you do operate counterintuitively to what we learned as kids about growing, learning, and developing. For many of us, we assume that what we're doing is right because it's always been this way. Or this is how our parents or someone once told us we were supposed to do something back then when we were younger, and we internalized it as, oh, this is just how it is. There are a few things I want to leave you with that I think will help. First is, we were mostly raised in the 80s, okay? This is so important. Where smoking was cool, greed is good, and we rode in the back of pickups without seatbelts, no seatbelts, and we didn't have cell phones. No cell phones, right? No one would argue that it's a good thing that we don't smoke, that we have seatbelts, and that we can use a cell phone if we break down on the side of the road, because I've often wondered, my God, what did we do back then, right? I would just walk till you get to a payphone, right? We've spent time cleaning up these old ideas and discarding them as we needed and getting new ones, right? And when was the last time that you did that in your business, where you cleaned up your old ideas and got rid of this, I don't need a seatbelt idea? Chances are you've just been accumulating ideas as you've been growing, and not once have you sat and said, I'm going to purge, Marie Kondo, my business ideas. Most of us don't do that. And it is a very, very important step, because every rule in business is made up. So important to remember that every rule in business is made up. All the things we're told, someone made it up. They were experimenting too, but they said it with such conviction that we just believed them because we were kids and we thought they knew what they were talking about. And so we're just like, yep, this is the way it is, right? And now we're adults and we are still believing them, okay? So it is so important that we remember that friends, don't let friends put wood paneling on their car or wear members-only jackets or bring these 80s ideas into the future that kind of need to be discarded. Don't let them work in the 80s equivalent of a business development. So make sure that you share this podcast with them, with all of your friends and anyone who you feel might be wearing a business members only jacket, and leave a review on the Apple Podcast so that we can help more kids like us learn how to run successful businesses. Hey, I wanted to ask you for a small favor. I love bringing you this podcast, and I'd love to take it to the next level with more graphics, adding blog posts, and having a Q&A. I have some big ideas for this podcast. To fund this effort, I have submitted Stop Shooting All Over Yourself to receive a grant from Podcash. It's a great organization that wants to support budding podcasters with grants from $250 to $5,000. I'd love it if you could head over to the website, the link is in the show notes, and drop a few lines about why you love this podcast and how it's helped you. I would appreciate it. And you will get so many more fun things once we have the funding. Thank you so much. Also, please make sure that if you have any people that you know who have podcasts, that you get this grant. Like, tell them about it, because I want to help support other podcasters as well. So please spread the word. Okay. Alrighty. Okay. Here we go. Okay. We're here at questions now. Ta-da. Okay. Karen says, alrighty. And you know what? Luna didn't ask to go out at all. Okay. This is me right now with implementing UTM links. Oh my God. UTM. Dude. Oh my God. I don't use UTM links. Don't use them. I spent so much time trying to get my website user ready and got stuck on the checkout that even my tech guy was having trouble. So I've gone with a different platform, cheaper and much easier to use. Dude, nice job. I am so glad, because the truth is that if you're spending that much time on it, at some point you got to ask yourself if the platform is the problem. You know what I'm saying? I'm totally with you. But I mean, that's why I'm switching for the 100th time. Okay. Alrighty. So Dawn says, TikTok, this, you just described me. This is described my life. Oh, I'm so glad that resonated. So glad. Dee Dee says, agreed, validate your idea. I'm figuring out what I don't like now. Exactly. Just try everything, because there's some things you're going to try that somebody's going to be like, oh, this is exactly how you grow your business. This is like, without doing this, you can't be successful. And you're going to do it and you'll be like, oh my God, I hate this. Oh, you and I were just talking about one of those things yesterday. We were just like, I don't want to talk about this. It's like, then don't. It's totally fine. You don't have to, right? Like, we don't realize how much opportunity we have because we're really stuck in looking in the direction. Like, if you're just looking in this direction, then you don't even see what's back here, right? And right behind you could be diamonds and pearls and rainbows and Lisa Frank awesome, and all you're looking at is the white door over there, right? Okay. Alrighty. Oh, it's so weird. These comments got all moved around because, like, I got the P word thing again from oh my God, Sheila. Karen says, I'm 4 years in and I just figured that out. Dude, it's fine. So it takes, like, it's businesses. I think we like to think about business as like this thing where you'll arrive somewhere, you know? And I gotta tell you, you don't ever feel that way. You don't ever feel like, I'm arrived. I've done it. I'm successful. I'm here. And I think that I was always looking for that switch. And so I think that when you look at it that way, when there's a finish line that you think there is, then, like, there does seem to be like, oh my God, I'm behind. Like, I can't believe it took me 4 years to figure this out. But the truth is, it's like, everybody's on their own journey, and who knows how long that journey is. Like, I know people who ran their own businesses. They hated it. They just didn't enjoy it. They did well. They made money, but they hated it. And they were just like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going back to corporate. Like, this is just not my thing. And, you know, people, right? There are definitely subsets of people who would say, oh, she failed and went back to corporate. But did she really? Like, she discovered what made her happy and made that decision, right? So, like, how is that failing? Maybe it's failing based off of your metric for success, right? So I think it's super important, because I think that a lot of times when we're like, oh my God, it took me X number of years to figure this out. Like, I feel like we learn our lessons when we need to learn them, and when it's time. But if we want to accelerate our progress, then truthfully, the most effective way to accelerate your progress is to let go of the things that you think are true. Like, that's sort of just, you have to let go of this is how I think things are, because that's the only thing that ever holds you back, is the tension between the way things are and the way you think things are supposed to be. Okay, let's see. All right. Wow. This got so weird. Hold on. Everything is getting moved around in like a weird way. So I have to go up and down on the comments. Like, they just keep getting like weirdly moved around. Because I know I saw something from Sophia about the chatbot. Okay, Sophia, I love the chatbot, but it take so much time and learning it and building it, and decided that there were way too many rules to follow, and I was afraid to have my page shut down. So Sophia, that's a really good example there, is when you use the chatbot. Because, like, I remember Sophia, she spent a lot of time on that chatbot. You hired somebody, right? You hired somebody to work on it, and you had a really great vision for your chatbot, but you didn't validate the idea. And Facebook has all of its rules, right? Which is part of the validation. And now, so you now have learned because of that experience, right? So, like, you may say to yourself when it's over, oh my God, I can't believe I spent all this time. I spent all this money. What a waste, right? That's how we would usually say it. And that's not how I'd approach it. The way that I would approach it would be, okay, here's what you learned. You learned, one, unequivocally, you don't want a chatbot. So you never have to ask yourself that question again. You can just toss that aside, and it really is very freeing. That is so worth a price. Like, absolutely worth it. The other thing is that you now know that if your Facebook business page is important to you, and that if there is a tool that has a risk of it being shut down, that you're probably not going to jump on it. So if another tool pops up in the future that has a similar risk, you've already done this legwork to know you just don't want to deal with that. And so be like, you know what, that's not something I want to do. So now you don't have to worry about FOMO, because it's easy for you to make decisions in the future of your business because of the roadblock that the challenge that you faced before. That's what all these things ultimately end up becoming, is they teach us about ourselves and what we like about our business and what we don't like about our business. And then we're able to make those decisions with confidence, so that instead of looking around and being like, what should I do next? What should I do next? When we're faced with that choice, you just feel comfortable making the choice because you already have that information. Okay. Who I want to work with and who I don't. That was a big one too. That was a really big one. And it's also like, you know, you figure out your audience too, but you also figure out like what kind of team members you want. Cause like, I've worked with a lot of different people on my team, and I've learned what people work well with me, what people don't work well with me, like how I am not a good boss. And so like, I need like I know that by default I tend to be like a certain way, and so that I need to be mindful, and I'm not super clear, so I need people who understand Manessa, right? These are all things that I wouldn't have known if I hadn't, hired a few people, worked with a few people, and just sort of figured out, okay, this is kind of how it works, right? Because you've got to figure out kind of how it works before you can actually like nail something down. Otherwise, you don't know how it works, and you're just like, well, I have no idea how to be a neurosurgeon, but I'll just pull the brain out. Well, it's fine. Just be very committed and be very convicted when you say it. Like, just be like, I know how to pull out a brain. Just pull the brain out. Doesn't matter if you actually know how to do it, right? Okay. So, Dawn, I'm not actually going to talk about keywords on Facebook here. There is a video that is already available. Christy can share it with you where I talk all about keywords on Facebook. All of the details are in there. It's on the playlist right at the beginning, on the business page of the. So I'd recommend taking a look at that. That gives you all the details you'll need about both your target audience, which is it's related to the keywords, and I know you know that, but I want to make sure that anyone in the future knows that those two things are related, and all that information's there. So I would recommend doing that. And since you are also in the social strategy squad, what I would recommend is head over to the stage 2. And in stage 2, finding your customers, I'm not entirely sure which lesson it is, but one of the lessons has basically a building your keyword exercise. But generally speaking, keywords are what Facebook uses to match content with people. So what I would recommend is if you're not a member of the squad, check out my videos. I have a lot of videos where I talk about keywords, and I can tell you in more detail, way more than I'd be able to tell you in the next 11 minutes. So I would recommend looking at that instead. Okay. You bought a training course and did it yourself. Someone else hired somebody. I know that there was someone who hired somebody. You did the training course. So see, that's another thing, right? You also learn to yourself, what things do you really want to what do you want to work on? I missed it. Do you have something on chatbots, adding a blog as a link to click on in Google in My Business? So I do not have anything on chatbots because I personally do not think that they are particularly helpful. I think that they are useful if you are a bigger company who has money to be able to invest in hiring somebody to manage your chatbot for you. But I do not think that an individual business owner having a chatbot on their own who does not want to be an expert in chatbots, I don't think it's a viable option for them because there's just entirely too much. There's too many rules. There's too many ways you can get into trouble, and it just doesn't provide the cost is too high psychologically. However, what I would recommend is to go into the automated messenger on your business page, and they actually already have like a keyword option. So you can do that. Is actually one of the most valuable features on the chatbot. So I think you could use that and still. No. So Messenger is the messaging. So we message back and forth. Chat bots are automated tools that get installed over your business page that act in your stead to communicate with people, and you do not need to be involved. So there are two separate things. You have your Messenger, which is where you and I would talk on Facebook or on business pages or whatever. And then you have the other kind, which is the chatbots, which are automated. Okay, yeah, no, I wouldn't do chatbots. I just don't think they're a good use of business. Good use of business, sorry. I don't think they're a good use of time and energy. I think that what all business owners need to do, really, is get people to where they can check out. Like, without that, you don't have a business, so none of the other stuff matters, right? So once you've got that in place, and you're like, okay, this is in place, now you're comfortable, and you've gone through the squad curriculum, because that kind of lays down the roadmap for you. But once all that's done, right, now you're in a place where your business is confident, you feel good, like you don't have to spend a lot of, I think you're going to be shocked at how little time you have to spend on social media and your business when you actually start working through the stages 3, 4, and 5. It really doesn't take a lot. They're coming up right now. But the important thing here is that after that point, right, when your business is flowing, money's coming in, then you sit back and you're like, oh man, I want to do something else for my business. And then you're like, I think I'm going to do YouTube, or I think I'm going to do a chatbot. But at that point, you're not seeing why is my business not working, and I'm going to make it work by doing YouTube, chatbot, blah, blah, blah. No, you have made your business work already, and then you are embellishing it and amplifying it with these other things. And that is the key. If you are hunting pecking for things to help your business because you're trying to figure out how to make your business work, then a lot of these things are problematic. But once your business already works and it's moving right along, then you are having different conversations with yourself about these tools. So these tools are not bad in and of themselves. They're great tools. But you have to ask yourself where you're at in your business, and if that is actually the best choice for you right now, or if it's something that you're doing because you think it's going to make your business work. Chances are, if you're picking a tool for something to make your business work, you have other problems in your business and you are misdiagnosing the issue. I would recommend heading over to the business page and sending us a message and being like, listen, I have a problem. And then one of our team will reach out to you, and you can hire them to help you figure out what it is. And I'm actually putting together a course myself called the Inspired Action Audit, where basically I'll go to your business and I'll do the whole thing and then just give you a report and say, these are the things you need to do to move your business forward, right? Okay. Yes, emphasize and amplify. Exactly. As a consumer, I find chatbots very annoying. Me too. I had one chatbot once where where it was really, really like, I thought I was talking to a person. Very cool. I was like, I don't remember which one it was, but I was like, that's how chatbots are supposed to be done. And after having had that experience, I realized I never wanted to deal with chatbots because I didn't want to spend the time or the effort or whatever it would take to make a chatbot that good. And anything other than that to me was just annoying. So I personally I'm not down with chatbots at all, but I do recognize that like if you are a product seller, that like they can be invaluable. But it just is really important to recognize that unless you want to become a chatbot expert, hire somebody to do it. Okay, alrighty. Yep, too many rules. All right, just gonna look and make sure that I've gotten all of the comments here. Everything's backwards. I don't know why. Okay, I think we got it all. I think we got all of the comments. Fabulous, and just in time too. So guys, this is so much fun. I love talking about this. I wanted to invite you to send me, if you have any ideas for what you'd like to see me talk about on the podcast. Like, I have a long list of things, but I'm totally excited to like rearrange them, change them around, toss something to the side and replace it with something new based off of like what you guys want to hear. So if you're struggling with something in particular in your business and you're like, oh my God, can you do a podcast about this? Just send me a message on PM and just be like, dude, can you do a podcast about this? As soon as I can figure out how to do a stop shitting all over yourself about it, I will, because I love to put things together based off of what you're going through right now. So never hesitate to do that. You are the one who hired someone, Colleen. I knew that somebody had hired someone and someone worked on it on their own. I think I got it confused. When Sophia said she did it on her own, you are the one who hired somebody. Absolutely. Okay, guys. Epic. I'm going to see all of you tomorrow for the S&M show that's going to be right here. It's also going to be on my personal profile. It's going to be in all the places. It's going to be amazing. I have no idea what Syra and I are talking about, but it's going to be super fun because, Syra and I have fun when we're together. So come join us. Hang out with the sisters. The reason why we have this live tomorrow is because as business owners, it is way too easy to become obsessed with your business and just talk about business like all of the time. And then you just become a one-topic person. You become boring. You become bored. And then you just feel really annoyed with your life and you have nothing to talk about on social media. None of us wants to be one-topic people who only live for our businesses. We want to be talking about other things and enjoying other things. And we want to talk about the stuff that's relevant to us in our lives as business owners, moms, chronically ill people, whatever. So the S&M show is a place for business owners to come and not exactly, Sheila. It's the place for business owners to come and hang out and talk about anything that is not business, right? It's a safe space for all of us to just hang out. So I hope to see you guys there. You'll see, if you're following the page, you'll see it there. Otherwise, you'll see it on my personal profile. Have a great day. And if you're what is today? Wednesday? Yeah, no, if you're in the squad, don't forget office hours are tomorrow with Syra at 2 p.m.